이렇게 안드레부처 아티스트 토크에 와주신 분들께 너무 감사드립니다. 제 소개부터 하면 이소영 작가이고요. 아마 이 자리에 제가 초대된 이유는 미술 교육인이자 미술 관련 글을 쓰는 작가이자 또 제 취미가 아트 컬렉팅이다 보니까 컬렉터로서 초대가 된 것 같아요. 그래서 여러분에게 오늘 이 안드레부처의 전시를 좀 더 이해를 잘 시켜드리고자 왔습니다.
Good day from André Butzer and myself. It's a real pleasure to be in Seoul, to be here at Page Gallery in that wonderful space and wonderful exhibition, and I hope you enjoy it just as much as André enjoyed preparing it.
작가님은 1973년생이시고 독일 출신인데요. 추상, 구상 이렇게 경계를 나누지 않고 모든 회화를 넘나들면서 작업을 하고 계세요. 단편적으로 이해되기보다는 좀 다양하고 입체적으로 이해되는 시간이 되기를 바랍니다.
Normally I don't have too much to say because I paint. If I could say it in words, I wouldn't have to paint it. I've been a painter since 1994. And since then, I'm meant to be the one who is interrupting repetition. So some people think I always paint the same, and they're right. And but the same is very difficult to paint. So also for Seoul, I was having no ideas, because I am the famous painter without ideas. So I can only follow the frequency of light, color, and rhythm. And it's about a golden potential in a not too far distant location that we cannot enter. So it's a holy space of where color is in a storage, all the color frequency. They are not lined up as a melody. It's more like a polyphonic. I just saw today at your entrance area at the palace in Seoul, when they changed the guards, there's wonderful music. And I felt it's really also dedicated to that golden frequency that we hear like a church bell from far away. It's coming and going, and it will never leave, and it will never be calculated. So I was very happy to see this today, and we walked through the palace area until we hit the very last area to the back, and then went up to a mountain. Oh no, before we had lunch. And then we went up to this mountain. There's a lot of stairs. And it was really wonderful. And I'm very grateful to be here. And I feel we came much closer to this golden frequency when we were up the mountain. So, thank you.
André Butzer's paintings here in that exhibition at first glance look really different. As he said, they are all the same. They are the same because they are related to our existence on this planet, to human being in the world, trying to figure out how we can find our individual place in this world. And you will see all of his iconic characters, the wanderer that embodies human suffering and the longing for a place of its own. You will see the Friedenssiemens, who represents or incorporates, embodies in itself vision itself, glancing into the past and dreaming up about an unclear, uncertain future. And you have the figure of the woman that both is a figure on the boundaries between life and death. She comes from an unknown beyond, and still the woman is the one that brings life into this world, that brings birth. So with André Butzer's work, it's always these extremes or opposites that are fused, that are brought together in his paintings. And so this exhibition here really is opening up his whole oeuvre that he has created over the course of the last 30 years.
저희가 이 작품을 시작으로 전시 설명을 하려고 했던 이유는 작가님의 작품 속에 어떠한 인물들이 자주 등장하다 보니까 누군가는 이게 캐릭터야? 라고 할 수 있는데 사실 작가님의 인터뷰를 여러 번 읽어보면 나는 구상을 그리는 것이 아니라 사실 그림을 그리는 것이다. 어떠한 형상을 표현하는 것이 아니다라는 말씀을 하시거든요. 그래서 개인적으로 많은 분들이 이 캐릭터들에 대해서 우선 궁금해 하시기 때문에 이제 크리스티안에게 작가님이 그리는 존재들에 대해서 한번 이야기를 나누고 싶습니다.
One of the special characters André has created, it is actually the very first character he ever created in 1999 and 2000. It is called Wanderer, we've heard that. We will come to the wandering in a little. If we look at the head or of the face of the figure, you notice that it's in an awkward, contorted shape, that the eyes are blank and very round, that the mouth is open, maybe because of fear, maybe because of tension, and the face, you can't really decipher whether the parts are his cheeks, whether they are his ears, where they're coming from. It's a really peculiar character, both between a human being and something else that has transformed itself in. And the longer we look at the face, his eyes might give us the first hint to whom or to what this character is related. Because if you remember, you might think of Edvard Munch's Scream. It is a human figure standing in a world that is disappearing, or a figure that is losing its world, and as a cry for help or a cry for existence, this figure has these large round eyes and the screaming mouth, screaming loudly for its own place. And Edvard Munch's Scream was one of the earliest influences to André Butzer in the 1990s. He even called his first solo exhibition in 1999, I Am Munch, just to claim that he is carrying on the legacy of Edvard Munch, because with Edvard Munch at the beginning of the 20th century, we find a very existential, very human dealing with our longings, our fear, our hopes, love, hate, death, and life. So in Edvard Munch's work, in a very expressive, painterly way, all our troubles and all our joys somehow are incorporated, and this is something that André Butzer very early on adapted for himself. The other side might be a bit more monstrous, because the face might not even be just Edvard Munch's figure or a descendant of it, but as well as a kind of a skull. So there is something terrifying about the figure. We have both sides, the hopeful and the terrible in that regard.
안드레부처 자체가 과거의 미술사와 지금과 미래의 미술사를 계속 연결하는 작가라고 저는 생각이 들어요. 그래서 독일이 사실 표현주의 사조로 상당히 유명하지만 이미 그것은 과거의 것이고, 안드레 부처는 이 SF 표현주의라는 단어를 통해 나는 지금 어떠한 회화를 해야 하고 미래에는 이 표현주의가 어떻게 연결될 것인가, 이런 것들을 고민하는 것 같아서 크리스티안에게 이 SF 표현주의에 대해서 조금 설명을 들어보면 우리가 더 깊이 있게 이해할 수 있지 않을까. 또 한 가지는 안드레 부처가 본인이 만든 영적 공간이 있어요. 이 나사하임이라는 단어가 실제 여러분들이 알고 있는 나사와 캘리포니아의 디즈니랜드가 있는 애너하임을 합쳐서 이 나사하임이라는 본인만의 영적 공간을 만들어서 그곳에서 어떻게 보면 또 본인이 만들어낸 이런 이미지, 존재들이 함께 살아가는 거 아닐까라는 생각이 듭니다.
When André Butzer started out, of course, he looked at art history. He was a very young boy in southern Germany. His mother was a hairdresser, his father worked as a tool maker, very simple people, and he always had a great longing to have his own place. And so when he read Friedrich Hölderlin's Hyperion, the first novel upon the Wanderer is based, he felt as if it had been written by himself. He had just moved to America in 1999, was reading the book and was heartbroken. He had just split up a relationship and felt homesick. So he identified very strongly with the character of Hyperion being lost in the world, not having his own place. And what André Butzer decided, create his own, as you said, his own home or his own homestead, a place of belonging where he could find or articulate and realize his life. Unfortunately, this was not a real place in the world. He did not find it. He did not find it in Europe. He did not find it in America. But where he found it was painting. And painting both, of course, is informed by the history of art that goes back thousands of years and basically captures or safeguards all of human experiences, the deep emotions, the hopes, the sad things, the happy things. So art is one of the things. And André Butzer always said, it's not the present we have to worry about. The present is what we know, as the past is what we know. What you might look to or what you need look to is the future. And that was the science fiction aspect, because science fiction, of course, is a slogan for films or books, but actually it's a vision or utopia in the future that you project yourself out to, and you hope to find some kind of a revelation or some kind of happy ending or good outcome of this. And so between the past and the future, he situated himself, and combined with the word Nasaheim, it's the same combined meaning, you find both. NASA is a space agency, that's the furthest we can imagine. Men going to space, exploring new planets, being far, far away. And Anaheim is, of course, the birthplace of Disneyland, but it's not the Anaheim place that was initially the important thing with Nasaheim. In German, Heim means home. So it's not just two places far away and Disneyland, but it's actually outer space far, far away, and the place where you were born, where you're at home, where your family is, where your friends are, where you feel you belong. So again, in this word Nasaheim, it's two states of being, out in the world and with yourself or with your loved ones. And again, it's these extremes between which he situates his paintings, as well as the past and the future. And that's where these things happen to be. And if we look at another character, the so-called Friedenssiemens, it's again a combination between Siemens, being the large German company or corporation that was funded in the 19th century and helped to foster German modernism or the Industrial Revolution in Germany. And still, the corporation itself was heavily implicated in National Socialism. It was one of the main corporations that funded and supported the Nazi Party in Germany. So it's not just the positive side of modernism or of development, of advancement, but as well as the problematic aspects that are included if corporations include themselves heavily in politics or in everyday life. So this is a critical side with Siemens, and on the other side on the name is Frieden, peace. So the hope is peace, but still you cannot have the one thing without the other. We all hope for a peaceful existence or for a peaceful being in this world, and still we all know that there are bad things happening. We cannot shut our eyes or push them away. You always have to accept that it has to be a balance, or things have to be brought in balance. And particularly the Friedenssiemens was the first character to have these large and bright eyes. The Wanderer has the dark eyes, just like a disc, in one color. The Friedenssiemens was the first to have the bright watching or gazing eyes. And it is actually a being that is about vision. And André always has said the Friedenssiemens to him felt like he was looking into the past seeing what mankind or what humans have done. That would be this way, looking to the left, to the past. The other one, the yellow one, looks to the right, looks out into the future. And if you see the painting, we never see where André Butzer's figures are looking. They never stare at us. They always look out of the painting to a place we don't know. There's always some kind of hope or some kind of maybe dream or some unreal place. We can only imagine where they might be looking or what they might be expecting or whom they might be seeing. So the painting itself is not just direct in this moment, but it's looking out, or it's looking towards or back from something. And so science fiction expressionism or Naserheim or the Friedenssiemens helped André deal with far deeper, far more elemental themes of our existence. How we lead our lives, how we find ourselves in the world we're living in.
나사하임이라는 곳 자체가 나사도 꿈을 실현해주는 곳이고 디즈니랜드도 꿈을 실현해주는 곳인 거예요. 그래서 어쩌면 작가님은 난 매일 같은 걸 그려 라고 하지만 매일 같은 어떠한 본인만의 약간 회화적인 유토피아? 그것들을 만든 것 같다는 생각이 또 들었고, 사실 이 전시가 작가님이 앙리 마티스에게 바치는 전시라고 이야기를 했거든요. 이동을 해서 이제 마지막 작품, 마지막 공간으로 가겠습니다.
Here we have the center of the big exhibition with 4 large heads of women. And here a particularly fine example, it's called Frau mit Zitronen, woman with lemons. So again, it could be abstract elements, just flickers of color surrounding the head, like a halo, for example. But in this case, it's actually fruit, and we will come to that. So something fresh, something brought into this world, something sprouting, something created. And as we heard in the front, the male characters, like the wanderer, they carry the load of history. They are all by themselves and alone, trying to find their places. The woman, on the other hand, is always an intermediary. She knows about the past, she knows about the future, and still the woman, for André Butzer, is the being or the character that connects the world or holds everything together. She comes from the beyond and brings new life into this world, anthropologically, so to say. And so the fruit, for example, might just be attributed to that. While men often have dealings that lead to destructions, the women bring the fruit, so to say. And it is interesting to see in this painting, if you think about the 20th century in art, usually it's modernism and rationalism. Everything is clearly settled and ordered, put into place. Think of the Bauhaus, for example, or minimalism. And in painting, you find this rationalism as well. Think of Piet Mondrian and his famous paintings in white, black, but most importantly, red, yellow, and blue, the primary colors. In color theory, from red, yellow, and blue, all other colors can be mixed. And so people said, if you want to have it pure and reduce it to the core, that's the 3 colors you should use. Very abstract concept in that. And André Butzer always felt that's not enough. Abstraction itself is not enough. Where are we humans in abstractions? And so, opposed to these traditional 3 primary colors he invented a 4th primary colors, which is the color of flesh. Research a little or look for his paintings, find such examples where there are no figures or heads, but you will still see the flesh tone, or sometimes massive parts, which has this physical or corporal appearance. And if you look closely at these paintings, you have this orange browny tone that is actually a red. You have the blue color in the collar and the eyes, and you have the yellow in the lemons. That's red, yellow, and blue. That's the primary colors. And you have her face as the central feature for incarnation of really the human presence in this painting. And if you take all this, when you can mix everything, every other color, every painting you can create from red, yellow, and blue, and with Butzer from the flesh tone, the female figure in this is always a birthing scene. It's about creation, not just making the painting, but the painting itself might be some kind of allegory of bringing life into this world. Not just being strict and fixed and limited, but creating new things, and that what might be these lemons surrounding the figure. Coming to Henri Matisse, which was one statement in the interview that was conducted for the exhibition where André Butzer said, I am Matisse now, not only Munch, but Matisse. And he is Matisse, probably one of André Butzer's most favorite painters there is. And if you think about Matisse, there are very few painters that have celebrated beauty, harmony, or balance in his art as strongly as Henri Matisse, even though he was actually quite risk-taking. So it was quite daring. And throughout Matisse's career, there were many scandals where people were screaming that the paintings were disastrous or cruel or dull. And even if we think about it today, if we take a look at his late paper cuts, where he was cutting flowers, algae, trees, figures, birds, for paintings that are just beautiful, back then in the 1950s, people were screaming. And still, Matisse always insisted, even through the Second World War, that it is important that the painting keeps to itself, that painting will not fall to the horrors that the war brought to the world, that painting must keep and preserve something human and something beautiful to aspire to. And even though André Butzer knows that the world is not pure, the world is not simple, and the world is not easy or peaceful, he once said that Henri Matisse is definitely an example, or the art of Matisse, to aspire to. And André Butzer's paintings are more complicated in that sense. They always have the other side as well. If there's good, there needs to be something more deepening or troublesome. André Butzer's paintings are not simple. They do not just say one thing. They at least say the other thing or the opposite thing as well. But only due to this, because he does not make it easy for us, even in paintings that look pretty serene and pretty touching, but because they are not making it simple for us, they actually get to us, and they might lead us to thinking or to feeling, because you feel that something is about in those paintings that's not easy to settle. It's not a logo. It's not about just a mere depiction. It's not just about happiness. It's about sadness as well, even if the painting is most joyful. And so these paintings and André Butzer helps us maybe to reflect better about our own situation, our own being in this world. And still, as his paintings continue to hold up and continue to appear that strong or confident, maybe they even help us to feel a little more confident in our everyday life.
좋은 회화는 끊임없이 우리를 공부하게 한다라는 생각이 들어서 이 크리스티안도 아마도 이걸 이렇게 단순히 설명하는 것보다 상당히 깊이 있게 설명을 해야 보다 더 정확하게 이분들이 사랑할 수 있을 거야, 이렇게 생각을 한 것 같아요. 그럼 현장에 계신 분들 중에 질문 있으면 한두 분 하고 우리가 마무리를 하면 좋을 것 같아요.
The paintings you are speaking of are at least 15 years old. So when André Butzer started out in the 1990s, he felt to become his own painter, he had to paint his own way through the complete 20th century, through art history, through political history. And so in the beginning, his early paintings are really overwhelming. There's so many motives, so many figures. The color itself, sometimes it's 5 centimeters thick, as if the paintings were so loaded with history, with contemporary influences like the industrialization or cartoons or advertising, company names, for example. So as if the whole experience of the 20th century were burdened upon those paintings. And over the course of the last 25 or almost 30 years by now, he really moved his way or found his way throughout this troublesome past. And so about 2008-09, the paintings start to become thinner and clearer, because as he himself had sorted out some of his experiences or had come to terms with his own being and the impressions, the paintings cleared up. And so for the last 15 to 10 years actually now, the paintings themselves have become maybe a little maturer. And so the turmoil of his own youth, of him being an agitated young man, this has receded a little. And still, I would say, the experience, so the tension, you might still feel underneath. It's not gone, but the painting have, in a way, cleared up a little. It's our being. It's our view into the world. It's the connection between what is inside and goes out through the ears or through the mouth or the ears. It's the screen between our interior and the outside world. Of course, we can touch or we can feel, but where things go in and out is actually the face. I think this is what, as human, how we recognize each other. Of course, somebody might be very good recognizing other people by their hands, but usually we recognize a face, and that is actually, yes. And coming to your comment, if we take a look at the small piece of canvas over there, where you just see the brush strokes, it's actually interesting. You could by itself say it is an abstract painting, fully abstract, just color contrasts, and a composition where he tries to balance what he has as the plane. But if you take a look to the left side, there is another painting hanging or you can look at any other of those paintings, particularly in the dresses of the woman at times, you will see individual depths of color. And the brushstroke is like a particle. So you could call it a particle or even DNA. For all the big paintings or all the large works, the little brushstrokes are actually the building blocks from which everything else is made. And so you might technically call them abstract, but in relation to all other works, they are not. They're actually quite material or quite figurative, so to speak. You will find them in the cloth, in the fabric of the dresses, for example, or just here, you've got the individual building blocks too. And still, it's a strange thing with this painting, you actually only have the head, and still you feel there's a body present. It might be somewhere here, even if we just see the head.
사실 저 같은 경우에는 처음부터 지금까지 한 번도 성별에 대해서 생각하지 않고 봤거든요. 그러니까 여인이라고 딱 그렇게 지칭을 해서 보는 것이 감상자들에게 좀 더 작가님의 의도와 맞닿아 있는 건지, 아니면 뭐 저처럼 성별 상관없이 저는 사실 성별 아예 생각 안 하고 남잔가 여잔가 그냥 논바이어린가 이렇게 생각을 했어요. 왜냐면 캐릭터들도 성별이 없는 경우가 많으니까. 그래서 그 부분이 조금 궁금했습니다.
Of course, the viewer can view the paintings as they like, which is important. But as with The Wanderer in 2000, André painted his first woman in 2002. And ever since, the figure of the woman has evolved since then. And although most of his paintings are called untitled or do not have a title, we have one painting in the exhibition that has a very explicit title. And this is the painting over there, and it's called Woman with Lemon. So this answers the question, they are women. And opposed to the male characters, as a female principle, that was actually always very important to André, that this is a female figure. And they are actually, in painterly traditions, related to a kind of painting you find in ancient icons, like Christian painting of the Virgin Mary, even if this in the same poses, how the head is tilted, how the view or the gaze is bent. So even art historically or painterly, they are coming from a far longer tradition of female portraiture or female representations.
정말 많은 분들이 안드레부처의 작품을 정말 더 자세하게 이해할 수 있는 계기가 된 것 같아요.
Thank you so much. We are very glad and very humbled to be in Seoul.